Next team we're going to talk about is the New York Giants. We'll save those Cowgirls for last. That's where they belong. 2024 was supposed to be a step back in the right direction for the New York Football Giants. After 2023 ended with a disappointing, injury-riddled 6-11 campaign, right? Following the first playoff win since 2011. Instead, yikes. Okay, let's get into it. So, can the 36-year-old Russell Wilson still be a factor in fantasy? Now, it's not like Russ got back to partying like it's 2015 again with the Steelers, but it was at least a step back in the right direction. However, the one thing that hasn't gone out of style just yet is Wilson's patented moonball. If you haven't watched it, literally look it up on YouTube. This man's got the prettiest floater I've ever seen in NFL history. Okay, he gave the term moonball because it's so pretty. Overall, nobody has had a higher passer rating at 126.3 or averaged more yards per attempt at 16 on passes thrown at least 20 yards downfield last year. Again, that floater is a beautiful thing. Turning 37 next November, it's far more likely that not that Wilson has already played his best football, but still it'll still be difficult to name more 20 to 25 better players at this position. At a minimum, the artist known as, well, Let's Ride or Dangerous, whatever you want to call him, should be able to provide enough adequate play to keep, I think, Winston and first-round Jackson Dart on the bench for however long the head coach desires, right? I think he's the starter week one. Of course, a move to Dart would be best in fantasy land, considering the Ole Miss product's rather awesome dual threat ability, right? Which is kind of why the New York Giants drafted him. While NFL defenses will certainly make life more difficult for a quarterback without, Jalen Monroe-esque athleticism, but Dart deserves a lot of credit for averaging almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground during his 3 seasons with the Rebels. Okay, and that's including yardage from sacks, guys. That 499 yards is including sack yardage. Dart is a mobile quarterback. Okay, so what is the fantasy outlook for Russell Wilson in 2025? The bar is certainly low, but Russ has the potential to supply the best quarterback play that New York has seen, in a minute. This seems unlikely to provide many fireworks in the fantasy land, considering Wilson's lack of rushing upside at the point of his career, right? But he should at least give this offense a chance to rank better than 30th in scoring as of last year. They've also ranked 30th in scoring out of the last 4 of 5 years, guys. The Giants' offense has not been good for a very, very long time. In football terms, 5 years is a long time. Let's get that straight. So here's the hope and Dart or Winston get a chance to start at some point, but both will be superior fantasy options thanks to their respective rushing and, don't give a shit skill sets. So is really Tyrone Tracy, is he the lead guy? Is this really his backfield? Maybe. It certainly was down the stretch of 2024, right? As Tracy played at least 60% of the offense snaps in each of the team's last 6 games. Of course, things weren't always great, as the former 5th-round pick was seemingly benched on 2 occasions following lost fumbles, something he unfortunately made a habit of all season. Overall, Tracy, which had 12, joined Breece Hall, which had 15, are the only running backs with more than 10 combined fumbles and drops last season. Got to fix those numbers, right? As a wise man once said, ball security is job security. In the football world, that's what it is. And it's accordingly difficult to be certain that Tracy has an overly long leash entering in 2025, particularly after the team used a 4th-round pick on the battering ram Cam Scabado. Okay? The running back 7 in the rookie supermodel. I think this was Dwayne. I wrote it down. Dwayne McFarland. Okay, Dwayne McFarland. In his rookie running back supermodel, Scatabo he's the 7th ranked, but he does have the sort of theory to be a 3-down running back skill set, right? To run away with this job, if given the opportunity. Now, of course, the incoming rookie also isn't immune to ball security concerns, and this starting job isn't exactly the sort of thing that fantasy dreams are made of. Okay? This is PFF's reigning 23rd ranked offensive line, and the Giants running backs ranked just 26th in receiving yards over the last 3 seasons with Dave Dable. So really, you're just getting rushing stats, right? If they're going to split with Scatabo, I don't see this boding well for either guy. So what is the outlook for Tracy and Scatabo this year? Okay. On one hand, the uncertainty surrounding this pecking order makes it tough to pump any of the involved running backs too high up the ranks. On the other hand, this is reflected in their depressed ADPs, and accordingly makes both Tracy and Scatabo rather awesome 0 running back or late running back drafters. Okay? They have the potential to really boom up the ranks once the clarity emerges and we see a lead guy. That's what drafting a player closer to their floor than their ceiling is all about. Okay? How high is too high to draft Malik Nabers in fantasy land? It honestly wouldn't be overly surprising if Nabers, finishes as the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy this year. Let's be honest about it. After all, he's fresh off averaging a whopping 18.2 points per game as a rookie, the 3rd most by a rookie in NFL history, behind only Odell Beckham Jr., which we've talked about Odell Beckham Jr. His rookie year was historical. It has records, guys. At 25, almost 25 points per game as a rookie is bonkers. Randy Moss had 19 points per game as a rookie. Then it's Malik Nabers. Okay? Nabers displayed a ridiculous blend of route running, yard after the catch, contested catch ability, and pure, alphaness on his way to becoming just the 7th rookie to average at least 80 yards receiving per game in the Super Bowl era. Okay? Now, fantasy life projections have Nabers earning a league-high 159 targets ahead of next season. I think that's a little much, okay? I do think that Darius Slayton, I do think that Wan'Dale Robinson will kind of eat into that with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson likes to spread the ball around. Okay, the rising second-year talent still might not have the world's best quarterback situation, but it certainly looks improved upon what he had to deal with last year, right? Making him, a first-round pick in non-superflex leagues. Okay? Elsewhere, I grew angry watching every reception that Wan'Dale Robinson hauled in last year, to be honest. It's like every target thrown his way is an attempt to score a touchdown from the 3-yard line. But the problem is that it's actually 3rd and 10 from midfield. Now, we can't ignore somebody fresh off catching 93 of 140 targets, right? The year before with Tommy DeVito and that slew of a quarterback room. Just realize that there have been 270 instances of the wide receiver catching at least 90 passes in a season in NFL history. 2024 Rondell is the only one to average under 50 receiving yards per game with 41. So, guys, my point is these catches are only going for 2 to 3 yards at a time. He doesn't get upfield. Okay? And again, we'll talk about the other guy. Darius Slayton might be a body catcher, but the man does know how to win deep. It's easy to picture him running underneath some beautiful moon balls from Mr. Wilson, right? Although there's a reason why he averaged just 74 targets during the last 3 seasons. It's tough to see an increased role with Nabers and Robinson back. Now, still, the Giants gave Slayton a 3-year deal for a reason. And accordingly, he's been a fun late-round dart in best ball drafts while managers don't have to worry about nailing the specific week that he hauls in a bomb. I believe Slayton is one of just 4 wide receivers priced outside of the top 150 overall picks that I would personally think about drafting. Okay, so what is the fantasy outlook for Nabers and Wan'Dale Robinson? I wouldn't disagree with anyone who ranks Nabers as a top 5 wide receiver ahead of 2025, fantasy-wise. He's got all the talent in the world and possesses arguably the highest target ceiling in the league. Meanwhile, I question if Robinson will come close to his previous target market, which we just talked about, with more downfield-oriented quarterbacks under center, making Slayton my preferred secondary option at cost. Because, again, he's that take-the-top-off guy. Wan'Dale's that gadget player, that screen guy. But, again, he doesn't get upfield. And it's proven in the stats. Is Theo Johnson a late-round tight end dart worth throwing in fantasy? Okay. Johnson's rookie campaign was cut short by I can't say it. This was Frank injury. I don't know how to say it. But while the second-year talent has been cleared to run, the injury is certainly concerning for his chances of building on a year one that resulted in, only 27 yards per game. Okay, that said, Johnson is a freak athlete. Okay, he helped keep Tyler Warren on the bench during their time at Penn State. Let's just put that out there. Daboll and company thought enough of the 2024 fourth-round pick to play him over 70% of the offensive snaps in 12 of his games last season. Okay, so he's on the field. This came despite Daniel Bellinger and Chris Manhertz being healthy, and the only added competition is, 7th-rounder Thomas Fedone. Now, Fedone has plenty of truthers out there and could perhaps be a late-round gem of sorts. It's not like the Giants use that high of draft capital on Johnson either, but it's also objectively a win for the second-year talent that this was the only meaningful competition added throughout the entire offseason. Okay? So what is the outlook for Theo Johnson? Virtually free in fantasy drafts of all shapes and sizes. Guys like Theo, Jawan Johnson, and Okdeko, the guy from Tennessee, are dirt cheap backup options to ideally pair with a more established tight end in fantasy land. McBride, the Bowers, the Kittles, right? It's probably not wise to expect too big of results. Giant tight ends ranked dead last in targets over the past 3 seasons, but virtually free plus athletes with the potential to handle full-time roles aren't exactly easy to find at the position. Okay? So, have the Giants invested more in their defensive line than any team in the league? Well, they're up there. Just 4 teams currently have north of $80 million devoted to their interior defensive line and edge rushers ahead of 2025. In my personal opinion, the Giants may have one of the better defensive lines in the league. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, just added a dual Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, it's bonkers, guys. I think the Giants have done well at the defensive line, okay? Now, these other 4 teams these other 3 teams are the Steelers, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Colts. Those are the 4 teams that are above $80 million in cap space devoted to their defensive line. Now, note that this doesn't even include Abdul Carter yet. While this Giants offense still leaves quite a bit to desire, don't be surprised if the G-Man will wreak all sorts of havoc at the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the ball. So what is the outlook for the Giants defense, special teams, and fantasy? The Giants should have one of the best pass rushes in the league. Carter, Burns, and Lawrence. Those are the headlines. This defense special team has the potential to surprise in fantasy should the offense manage to avoid putting them in too many bad positions. Okay, as long as they're not on the field constantly, we should see production, guys. So what's the prediction for the New York Giants in 2025? Vegas really isn't expecting much from this group. Okay, the Giants joined the Titans, Jets, and Browns as the only teams with a low 5.5 win total. I need to be careful about being too optimistic about every squad, right? But as was the case with the other NFC teams, this win total simply feels too low. I think the NFC East beast is back, guys, especially with this defense. Seeing this squad reach 8 wins would be surprising, but the defensive line looks good enough to win a few games on its own, and I'm going to be honest about that. Russ and Nabers should provide enough of a spark to hopefully take this offense from, well, horrible just to bad. Just that slight upgrade. But as for my bold fantasy prediction, I will go with Slayton surprising and turning in a borderline wide receiver finish with over 900 yards and 7 scores on the year. I think Darius Slayton is very draftable, guys.